Pierre Hakim. I've been with Casey's for about 7 months now. This is my third stop building up a data analytics team. And if we can get started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys very quickly a little bit about Casey's. So those that have traveled or lived in the Midwest, you know about Casey's. For the rest of us that hadn't done that before, Casey's is an absolute powerhouse. 2,500 stores and growing, 16 states. We're talking about 3 businesses in one. Fuel station, convenience store, and prepared foods. Don't take it from me. We're the 3rd largest convenience store chain in the country, even though we're completely regionalized. Now, as far as the prepared food side, that's our crown jewel. Think donuts, think subs, think salads. But really the one that sells more than anybody else is pizza. Now, pizza, gas station, I know what you're thinking, but we're talking about breakfast pizza. We're talking about limited time offer pizzas. And again, don't take it from me, 5th largest pizza chain in the country. People connect with Casey's. People like what Casey's is offering. Now, why data analytics at Casey's? Because that makes you wonder a little bit. Again, I said 3 businesses in one, 2,500 stores and growing, hundreds of millions of transactions, right? Owner, operator, self-distributed, 6 million reward members and growing. It's a treasure trove, to say the least. And what's best than to hire the best treasure hunters to help us build the entire structure.
Thanks for that, Pierre. And for those of you that don't know us here at Tredence, the simplest way I think about us at Tredence is we're the secret weapon that powers the AI and data strategy for 6 of the 10 largest retailers in the world. We're what we call an accelerator-led services provider. We actually just today launched our Atom.ai accelerator ecosystem on Databricks, which helps retailers speed their data migrations, improve their use of AI and ML across a variety of different business use cases, and then operationalize and production their models in real time in a cost-optimized way within the Databricks Lakehouse. In terms of the work that we do with our clients, the work that we do with our clients on the next page really spans 4 different types of work. The first work that we do is helping retailers productionize a retail cloud lakehouse environment. For many of the world's largest retailers, their data is stuck in legacy data silos. They have data in Hadoop, they have data in Teradata, they have data in SQL Server, SAP, a variety of different warehouses. And the problem is they can't fully leverage that information to drive value back into their organization and back into their company. And so we do a lot of work with many of the world's leading retailers, breaking down those data silos, integrating all of their data in real time in a lakehouse environment in an integrated manner so they can unlock the power of their data. Once they've built that data foundation, we then do a lot of work to help drive self-serve access to that information. After you've made a large investment to bring your data live into a lakehouse environment, you need to then be able to democratize that data out to your business stakeholders, out to the different business functions within your organization. And so we do a lot of work with our clients in really 2 big areas in platform support and governance. The first of which, as Pierre will actually talk about today, is really around data governance, which is creating one version of the truth across your organization. So when you look at a given business metric, everyone is calculating it the same way. They know how it's calculated and they're able to use it to drive business decisions out into the organization. And then the second bit, when you get into the AI ML space that Casey's is in, you then need the platform operations to ensure 100% uptime, as well as the ML ops process to productionize those models and ensure those models are staying in tune as the changing consumer and the changing competitive environment that we're all facing really starts to impact the models that you've trained. And then on top of that, we do a lot of work with our clients across analytics consumption. As Pierre will talk about from Casey's, we do quite a bit of work on report rationalization and report migration, moving from legacy reporting platforms to more modern reporting platforms, as well as then leveraging anomaly detection engines and conversational AI to help take advantage of all of that integrated data to then drive recommended, personalized, persona-based insights out into the business to answer commonly asked business questions that the organization has. And then sitting on top of that is all of our accelerators that we put into Atom.ai to solve common retailer business problems and business challenges. Our accelerators range from things like demand forecasting that Pierre will talk about with one of the challenges they had on production planning for pizza, to things like retail media network, which serves as a great revenue stream and profit stream for many of the world's largest retailers, to things like on-shelf availability, alerting, fraud detection, et cetera, that Pierre is going to talk about to us today. So that's a very brief introduction to Tredence and who we are. Casey's is, Pierre's now going to talk a little bit about the analytics journey that Casey's has went through and some of the sort of case for change and reason for change that Casey's had.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, next slide, please. So what I'm going to share with you guys very quickly right now is, I'll just go ahead and talk through it. Some of the opportunities and challenges that we faced ever since I got to Casey 7 months ago. So as any organization, right, Casey's has been a traditional centralized BI team, IT-led. So what we mean by that is there's a set core of reports that get created based on a data warehouse that's created on-prem, and all of that data is curated and is built in advance, meaning there's no raw layer. You only get what the business asks for, and then it goes from there. So what we ended up having is a bottleneck, a choke point, if you want, right? Any department across the entire organization needed to go through that center of excellence, right, or that BI team to get any kind of information they needed. So you have a long list, and you have to wait in the list, and then whoever the highest paid person is gets what they need, and everybody else goes down in line from there. So that was problem statement number one. Problem statement number two is that by virtue of creating that, all of those different departments now, the ones that make decisions based on that data, had to wrangle from several different data points. By the way, this storytelling is not any different than at most organizations that are on their maturity to modernize their data analytics. So they had to wrangle from a lot of different points, meaning that they spent all of their time wrangling, putting data together, then handing it over to a vice president or a director who, based on their experience, had to make the decisions. So we were very data rich, as you can see, right? But very information poor all the way through. No insights were created along the path. So the third step is that from a data foundation standpoint, we were all over the place, as a lot of companies that are modernizing are, because it's use case based as you come along. A new point of sale system, you create the view that you need. A new interaction that you have with a third party, you bring in their data and then you send it somewhere else. So we were on-prem, we were in the cloud, we were in multiple clouds. It was really just all over the place. So what we wanted to do at that point was make sure that we consolidate quickly and efficiently, because that is the first step for us to be able to do all of the things that Morgan was talking about a second ago. So the fractured state of data was really our first focus. The last one that I want to bring out is regarding data science, AI, ML, and all of that work. I mean, it was aspirational at best, right? We weren't really doing that. A lot of different departments were creating their own models on the side, and you guys can imagine how they were creating it, right, in Excel, this and that, because data was not available for them to do what they needed to do. So if you don't mind going to the next. So what was very important for us was to create a vision, a clear vision, because you guys all know, you can get quartered very quickly if you're trying to tackle every single one of those elements in parallel or at the same time, or if you ask the business what they believe they want to be tackled. They've given us a mandate from the beginning to tell them what a roadmap would look like. So we met with Tredence, I want to say, a month into my tenure, right? We had a couple days worth of a work, where we worked together, and then several months after that, we kept building upon it. So what you see over here are the three big tenets, if you want, the big rocks that we're gonna migrate to, our North Stars, if you want. And then below that, you've got objectives, you've got roadmaps and everything else, starting with the data marketplace. What we're calling data marketplace is, it starts at its core with a cloud foundation. So what we've done in the past was that we transformed data on its way in, as opposed to bringing in raw data, standing it in a data lake, and then building your common data layer on top of that, and your business layer on top of that, and then delivering back to what Morgan was saying. So we've completely flipped it upside down. And we'll talk in a little bit about the success that we've had delivering on that. So what you need to think about data marketplace is essentially our internal branding at Casey's for this one-stop data shop, right? You want every single department to be able to come in, have curated, certified data that is accessible to them. They know the quality of it, they know that it's governed correctly, they know that it's certified, and they know what different use cases they can have on top of it. Number two, which is the first stop in activating any value of data, and that's our community of insights. So this is what we're proposing at Casey's as far as flipping this centralized model over to a hub and spoke model. There's going to be three separate layers to this hub and spoke model. A community of practice, which is made out of all the users that consume that data across the organization, whether it's at corporate offices or whether it's in the field or anywhere else. Supporting that unit, that community is going to be a community of analysts. Think of those as power users. And for those of you guys that have been involved in governance before, you can already start thinking about this. You're like, okay, those are potential stewards of the data, right? Those are the ones that can be the first guardians and essentially an extension of that third unit, which is the center of excellence, which is the one that reports into me. Those are the change agents, right? They're the culture warriors, if you want, changing us from a data organization, right, to an insights organization. They're going to be responsible for training, for development of the community of analysts. They're going to be responsible for cross-departmental insights. They're going to be working very closely with Tredence and the other teams to develop the type of models that are coming up in a minute. Last unit, and really this is where at the beginning of that journey, is unlocking the value with AI and ML. So what we're doing today is we don't have a data science team at Casey's. We're going to build that out over time. So we're working with partners, Tredence being the main one of them, right, to develop the type of models that we talked about. So what we need to think about here is that our first step is initiative-based. So think of it as develop, deploy, monitor. Pretty straightforward. And then revisit every now and then to make sure that the models haven't decayed. There's no continuous improvement per se, because we need them to work with us on the next model. So a couple models that we worked on over here, I'm going to talk about them now, is one of them is the production planner, which is how many pizzas do we need to make on any given day. Very impactful for our operations. We started out in August, we've rolled it all the way through, and I think it's in production today. And what that means is that it gives recommendations to the different stores on how many different pizzas they need to make down to the hour, down to the quarter pizza level. Very powerful stuff for us to be able to make sure that we get the right pizza in front of the right customer at the right time. So I'll hand it over to Morgan now to walk you through how we've delivered on this.
So as you guys heard from Pierre, Casey's had a very clear vision of where they wanted to go with their data and AI and analytics journey. But to reach that journey, like many retailers, they needed the right skills, the right talent, and the right resources to enable what we call the migrate to modernize journey. Via Tredence, we worked together with Pierre as well as their CIO, Adrian Butler, to build out what we call a flywheel engagement model. And the idea of the flywheel engagement model was for Tredence to bring a variety of different skill sets that adjusted over time as Casey's needs adjusted and as Casey's needs evolved as they went through their AI and ML analytics journey. And so our team first started with the data foundation team, which, as Pierre mentioned, they had data across a variety of different data sources, as well as a variety of different third-party partners, as well as other challenges, multiple clouds, et cetera. And what our data foundation team was very focused on is then building that data foundation, that Azure Lakehouse environment that would help Casey's unlock the power of their data and set them on the AI ML journey that Pierre mentioned a moment ago. That was the very heavy focus for us at the beginning of the engagement. But as soon as we created that data foundation with help from Pierre's team, working hand in hand with the data engineers and the IT team at Casey's, we then transitioned to the data governance work. And as Pierre will talk about, that's a combination of people, process, and technology. And so bringing the right folks to work with the data stewards that Pierre mentioned to help high-grade a data governance tool, put in place the right security requirements, put in place the right data governance program and data lineage program is really what helps to then enable the self-serve journey that Casey's wanted to go on as they democratize data across the organization. And then again, as Casey's needs evolved, our flywheel engagement model evolved with them to allow us to then focus on the AI ML use cases where we could bring data scientists and business practitioners leveraging our accelerators out of our Atom.ai platform to help them solve many of the use cases that Pierre mentioned around promotion optimization, production planning, fraud detection, et cetera. And so what Pierre and I will do now is walk through each of those kind of three elements here in a little bit more detail. Not unlike many of the world's leading retailers, Casey's had, you can jump one more ahead just in the interest of time, Casey's had their data stuck in legacy data silos. Many retailers are working with a data warehouse that exists to help drive reporting and report efficiency. Many retailers then moved to a lake or a data lake, which drives AI/ML use cases. But Casey's, under Pierre's leadership, had the vision to move to a Lakehouse. And in that Lakehouse, they had an extensive amount of work that needed to happen. I remember one of the first conversations we had with Adrian and Pierre is they joked that the cloud wasn't the cloud, it was the space, given how far they thought they had to go to be able to migrate all of their different data sets to the cloud. Through the work that we did together in about a 6-month period, we're able to bring over 350 data tables migrated to Synapse, as well as to Databricks, to give all of their business users access to the information that they needed in one place, integrating data from a variety of different data sources ranging from fuel, point of sale, customer data, et cetera. The challenge, again, not unlike many retailers, once they have that data in a data lakehouse environment, is all of a sudden your cost from your friends at Azure and Databricks starts to rise as the business starts to see value in that information. Now, cost rising on your cloud, cost rising on your lakehouse isn't necessarily a bad thing if the business is using that in an optimal way and in an efficient way to drive the business forward. That's pennies on the dollar of the value that you can receive from the growth that you can drive. But the challenge when you open up an environment like this, when you open up a powerful compute engine like this, is the users aren't using it in the right way. And so the second phase that we went through with Casey's, after we leveraged our accelerators to speed the migration process, was then around cost optimization, ranging from basic things like what's the right balance between interactive and job clusters, to tuning and customization of the Spark queries and the other queries that are being run against the database, as well as more complex tasks like putting in place guidelines and guardrails around what are the right cluster sizes to use, when should we use those cluster sizes, should we reserve those cluster sizes, should we use those in more in an interactive manner, et cetera. And through all of that work, we're able to help Casey's reduce their cost through both Azure and Databricks by about 40%. Now, my friends at Databricks aren't happy with that. But Casey's is really happy with that, because what that allows them to do is then run more and more use cases on Databricks. So the goal is not to get the cost down as much as possible. The goal is to use that cost as efficiently as possible to drive the right business use cases and the right AI ML use cases, which Pierre will now talk about when we talk a little bit about the data governance practice that Casey's put in place.
Driving down cost in one area allows us to repurpose that cost, and I think that that's absolutely critical. I do want to just wrap it up very quickly on the prior slide. It is the moon that we said that we wanted to go to, because the cloud seemed like it wasn't a high enough goal because it was so complicated. But to be very clear, I'm going to say it again. We started our engagement in March of last year. April, May is when we kicked off the movement to the cloud, right? By end of October, we were live in the cloud. By December, we had cut over everything to the cloud. Last week, we started decommissioning our on-prem. So this is not it took us years to get here, to be fair, right? We took a lot of wrong turns, false starts and all of that. But once we get the right partnership and we get working together, and that's a very big deal here. And when I'm talking about the right partnership, it also has to do, like, they're part of our sprint planning, right? So let's talk about governance very quickly, because that's a big component of our marketplace, as I was talking about. To be able to make sure and ensure that you got the right curated data sets that are available for all of those different units across the organization to provide value, you need to be able to start with governance. However, governance, and all of you guys would know that, it's very easy to boil the ocean with governance. It can get very expensive very quickly, and I don't just mean from a cost standpoint, from a people standpoint, and being pulled a lot of different directions. So having done that before and having not necessarily been super successful doing it before, what we decided to do here is to be very focused. So we're picking one domain, right? And we're going to just go ahead and do it from beginning to end. We're going to work on that. It's a fuel domain, if I remember correctly, because that's one of the ones that we are very comfortable bringing in. So we're going to go ahead and build it from beginning to end. Remember, back to the community of analysts, that allows us, in the meantime, because we're working in parallel, to stand up that community of analysts, those stewards that will end up being champions of this world. So we're going to build up processes. We're going to build up the right policies. We're going to build up a council. All of that is going to come in time. The idea here is to go as methodically and as diligently as possible so that we can get wins along the way, and the business, who are going to be the end users of all of that information, are on the journey with us. This isn't an academic exercise for us to just put something out there and to say, check, we've done governance. Not at all. We want to make sure that that is viable in the long run for Casey's. So I'm going to hand it over to Morgan to talk to you a little bit about the different technology that we're using.
As you guys, I'm sure, can see, Casey's has tremendous expertise on their business. They've got a wonderful team that knows their data. They know their business very, very well. But one of the areas that we really focused on with them in complementing the people and the processes was the technology. And so as a part of our engagement with Casey's, one of the big areas we focused on very quickly after completing the data foundation was helping Casey's to choose the right data governance tool for their specific requirements, for their unique use cases and their specific challenges. And so we went through an extensive process of talking to the business users, identifying what features and functionality and requirements that they have, scoring and weighting each of those requirements across a variety of different data governance tools, and then helping Casey's align on a combination of both Purview as well as Unity that allows them to take advantage of the two great partners that they have across both Microsoft and Databricks. In addition to that sets them up incredibly well to leverage new capabilities that Databricks is launching around real-time streaming data as an example. But once you now have the data governance in place, you also need a data quality framework and data quality in place. And so we're now in the process of working with Casey's to leverage machine learning on top of the data to make sure all of the data is being loaded in a timely manner, it's complete, it's accurate, and detecting anomaly detection, because I'm sure many of you guys know, if you put bad data in the hands of your business users and they see one thing that's wrong that they can identify very, very quickly, the whole thing's done, and all of the work that you did was completely for naught. And so we focus very heavily on leveraging technology around both data quality, as well as helping the business more easily self-serve within the data foundation that we helped create. And then where the real value unlock comes from, and that kind of migrate to modernize framework that we talked about before, is the AI ML use cases on the next page, JR. From an AI ML use case perspective, we really focused on a couple main things. The one that Pierre's mentioned a few times here is around pizza. Pierre and the Casey's team are one of the largest pizza providers in the world, but they relied on human intuition of their store managers to set their production schedule. As Pierre mentioned, it's not just pizza at lunchtime. It's pizza all day long, snacks, breakfasts, etc. And which flavors you need to make, which sizes, how frequently, how many of them you need to make, etc. is incredibly important. I won't go too much into the details for confidentiality reasons, but Casey's was having to throw out a large percentage of the pizza that they were creating each and every day because they were building all of this pizza off of human intuition, and no human is going to be able to process that, what the right production schedule would be. And so over about a 4 to 6 week period, leveraging the data foundation that we built in partnership with Casey's, we're able to leverage a machine learning forecast model to then send down to the store apps the right pizzas to build every hour, so we could know the right item, the right hour, how much should be built in each and every one of their 2,400 plus stores across the Midwest. What that did is it drove a significant reduction in shrink, as well as a significant increase in accuracy of those demand forecasts. The other use case that we got incredibly excited about working with Casey's was, if you guys have ever traveled in the Midwest, I encourage you to download the Casey's app. In the Casey's app, they make it available, a portion of their assortment, to folks to buy on the app, so they know the product is available, they can buy that product, and they can, when they arrive in store, be able to take advantage of that product. Via our inventory prediction model and our analysis of real-time data, what we're able to do is we're able to more confidently identify which products were going to be in store in each and every one of Casey's 2,400 plus stores. And what that allowed them to do is have a significant multi-factor increase in the amount of products they were putting on the app. The more products they put on the app, the more products that are available for their customers and their guests to buy. The more products that are available for their customers and guests to buy, the more they sell in each and every one of their stores, and the greater satisfaction that they drive with their guests. And then the other use case that we focused on a lot was around fraud detection as well. One of the great use cases that Databricks enables is real-time streaming data and real-time data visibility. Via the work that we were able to do with anomaly detection engine, we're able to identify fraudulent transactions and help Casey's more quickly identify shrink, stolen product, missing inventory, phantom inventory, etc. So again, they can ensure more products are on the shelf, but they can also clamp down on the fraud that's fairly common across many retailers around the US. So those are just the tip of the iceberg, if you will, on the AI ML use cases that we've started to attack. And now that the data foundation is in place, more of the focus of the relationship is now on these AI ML use cases. And if we come back next year, hopefully we'll see 20, 30, 40 of these different use cases that we're addressing on Databricks.
So in the interest of time, we're going to wrap it up. I think this is our last slide. So a few of the lessons learned and best practices. I would summarize it from my standpoint, at least, into 3 different buckets, right? The very first one being clarity of goals, right? It is extremely important for us to be able to know what it is that we're focused on and what it is that we are going to do and what it is that we're not going to do in the time frames that we're talking about. It allows us to deconflict priorities as they start coming in. Because number 2, there is a balancing act that needs to happen between running the shop and building the shop of the future. That's something that's absolutely critical. We can't stop doing business, meaning we can't stop delivering what we were already delivering before just because we have this new mission that we're focused on, try to move to the cloud and try to introduce AI and ML and so on and so forth. Getting alignment, number 3, from leadership. But most importantly, alignment between the partners to make sure what it is that we're working on, but then with me and my peers and my executives to make sure that they know what we're focused on and why we're focused on it and where we're going. I would say are the 3 big best practices and lessons learned that we had over the last several months.
Yeah, and I think from the Tredence side, we learned a lot working with Casey's. We learn a lot from our customers each and every day. And so a couple of the best practices that we learned in working with Casey's is 1, agile project management. Pierre and the team set up a wonderful vision for data and analytics at Casey's, but things change over time. Their priorities evolve, their executive mandates evolve, and as a partner, we need to be able to evolve quickly with them. And that includes things like bringing the right skill sets, being able to pivot very quickly, but staying very, very closely integrated with the Casey's team as an extension of their team so we can stay very closely aligned to their requirements and their mandates. The second big learning for us that we try to apply across all of our engagements with our partners is we don't want to just be a ticket taker. Casey's has a wonderful vision, but one of the values we bring as a third-party external consultant is being able to share best practices with them of what we're seeing across our other clients, whether it be in convenience or other adjacent channels that we work in, so they can take advantage of those best practices, and we can be more of a strategic partner and strategic thinker versus a ticket taker. And then the last for us, we're all learning in this space. We learn a ton every day. Casey's learns a ton every day. I'm sure all of you learn a ton every day around how to use AI and ML in your organizations. And so one of the things we've tried to do is join innovation. We don't want to necessarily say we have the perfect solution to every problem under the sun. We want to work very closely with Casey's, hear some of their hairiest business challenges, and then create joint solutions to solve unique business problems that they have. And a lot of that has been in the partnership that we have, where we go and do store walks, we learn about the day in the life of the store manager, and then build solutions collaboratively together, all the way from identifying the user personas that you want to solve the problem for, through wireframing and whiteboarding, all the way to the actual kind of custom development and the custom solution that we created. So I appreciate everybody's time today. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of a glimpse into how leading retailers like Casey's are supported by folks like Tredence to leverage Azure Lakehouse environments to drive their AI ML journey and unlock the power of their data. So thanks everybody for your time, and I think we're a couple minutes over, but thanks again everybody.